second video will just cover a few extra thoughts on putting together a pastoral supply kit if you're working out of your studio and either at a workshop or away from home. In part one of this little materials presentation, we went through the different pastel sets and the absolute basics, talking about easel, etc. This is with the little carry bag I mentioned. This is my easel strapped on to the front. Of course, you don't need this carry bag, but it just shows you what I'm using. We talked about the backing board and the fact that you can put your papers in between that back on my easel, which you might notice now has something attached to it. My core pastel box, which is actually a 3-layered box, which you could use straight for pastels, 3 layers, or you can use it as I have it there, which contains a few other bits and pieces. So let's quickly have a look at those again. In case you missed part one, we have here my core list of pastels, and that list is what you can download from linmelody.com.au in the workshops area. And we have around the colour wheel, so we've got from yellows to oranges. We have the basics running around. We have 3 tones, light, middle and dark, right around the colour wheel there, and that is, I believe, the minimum that you can take with you. I have packed it in as flat as I could, as you can see. That fits on. Protection over the top. We had the charcoal stick, we had the all-important masking tape. Haven't mentioned that yet. We have my gloves. That's not mentioned yet. We've mentioned the Isocol, which can go with that brush if I'm doing an underlayer. We have another little paintbrush. We have a skewer, which is really important, but it's an important tool. Talk about that when we're painting. We've got the Conte thin sticks. We have bulldog clips. And they're the basics that are in there. Put that little beast back there. Alright, what I haven't mentioned is wet ones. I'll just put that forward. You use that probably, but if not, the wet ones are brilliant. Paper towel. Paper towel is something that works with the actual grain, the sandy grain. If you are going to soften something on here, paper towel is the way to go, because its grittiness works with this grittiness. A tissue, a facial tissue, much too soft to go with a granular surface. So that sort of goes with the sanding. I did mention the colours. So I have pulled them out again. My favourite, rose grey on the top. You bring yourself a selection of background colours which might be suitable. And these are the shadow colours within your painting. They're the underlying colours. This is my favourite, it's the most versatile. You can make it as light or dark as you want, and your painting will just emerge from this. These rely on these as backgrounds to give more character, shall we say, to your lighting. Now, white is something we haven't discussed. White is waiting for you to tell it what you want to do, and everything has to be darker than it. So if you are somebody who wants to be more in charge, this is an extra. You bring yourself, or you can do it with pastel pigment and wet it, but just get yourself a cheap little travel kit of watercolour. This is very definitely not high class, but it's suitable for an underpainting. There's a tiny little excuse for a palette on the top just to slush some water in and make a little bit of mixture. Obviously, you can grab some watercolours in the selection that will give you a range, and you can take yourself a little palette. And if you've used your watercolours, finished with your painting, I, with this one, just ran it under some water, wiped it around, and the residue there, I did not wipe out. I've let it dry. Now, if I wish to reconstitute that, all I have to do is spray it with some water or just re-moisten it again, and it's ready to do its job again. And I can add underpainting colours more selectively than just having to take the one all over colour. And a lot of people are now doing that. So if you're somebody who likes to add some more colour, you bring a white as well. So the two sizes most useful for painting on site are this one, the A3, and one just a little bit smaller, which is actually made by Art Spectrum. They are really good for on-site works because there's not too much for you to try and do in one go. They are still big enough for you to actually show a result that's worth keeping. That's the size that it will mat up to, which is useful as a little study or a reference or a fully fledged painting. So I'll just pop that there for the time being. Now on site we do paintings or we do studies, and sometimes you don't want to sit down and do a fully fledged colour study. These travel diaries catch all the little elements of interest as you're going through, or little bits and pieces that you might want to add to your painting afterwards. And when you go through those, sometimes you can come up with lovely little studies that you might want to do something else with. Now, if I wanted to just do a pen and wash drawing of what I'm doing as a sketch, as a travel diary, this is what you use. And you can, at the end of that, you can add colour if you wish to, or you can leave it as just a lovely simple line drawing. Now the reason I'm saying get the 300 grams is if you do add any moisture to it, you're not going to end up with a buckled little book. Now I have my camera in this form just sitting on the table among all of my elements. This is a very useful tool. Yes, you're painting, you can snap a special lighting condition that might happen, something you might want to remember. And if you're painting one painting, if you're swiveled around, there may be another subject over there that you might want to have a crack at. So this is a data recorder and it's a painter's tool. Now, this is something you don't have to have, but it is a little umbrella that can unscrew. You can put it onto the top of your easel. Here I've attached the umbrella to the stand of the easel. I wouldn't recommend this without some weight on it, and you can catch the weight on here and just have your bag hanging down possibly. But I, once again, good old masking tape. I always give it just that little bit of an extra security. And with the weight of the pastels on it, it's a little bit more secure. But it is this will protect your painting. You do not, under any circumstances, want sunlight to be shining directly onto the surface of your painting, because that extra light that you see there throws out what our eyes can actually make of the tonal range. So you just move your easel around on site to make it, make the most use of that protection. Another way to use this umbrella is not to put it on the easel, but if you're seated, you can actually put it on the back of your chair, and that'll give you some protection if the surface of your work isn't being overly lit by the sunshine. Of course, you can just fold it up and leave it like that. If it gets a little bit too windy and you're worried about the umbrella taking off with your work. All right? So I think I've covered almost everything except the table. Now, if you have or going to get a setup of the easels with the weighted little table with the pastel shelf on it, you may not need a working table. But if you don't have that as yet, we have found a table. It's an Austrail. I'm giving an advertisement here. An Austrail, and this is obviously, it's a foldable uppable one. But the thing that's different about this is the fact that the legs are retractable, just like a tripod. So you don't have a completely level leg. You can pull them up and push them down if the ground is uneven, and that makes it a very useful tool for working out in the field. I can actually, if necessary, put the table in there and my little easel, and I can just carry that over my shoulder. If you are somebody that wishes to sit down when you paint for whatever reason, bring a little fold-up stool, but always keep in mind that you need to cart it a little way. You don't want something heavy. I usually don't sit down, I usually stand, but it's all personal. And when we're out there, we're painting. We don't want to bring problems. Just bring enough for what you need. Choose from what we've had here in this little video, and I hope that helps you decide what you're packing as you leave your studio behind and take your paints elsewhere. Happy painting!